All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something important, something often lurking in the shadows of the payments world, merchant fraud.
That's right. Specifically, identity swap fraud.
Exactly. We're basing this discussion on a really insightful article from NMI, and it highlights something crucial. We hear a lot about fraud targeting buyers, right?
All the time.
But fraud by merchants, that's just as dangerous, maybe even more so for the acquirers, the institutions handling those transactions. They often end up footing the bill.
And critically, identity swap fraud isn't, just a one-off problem. Think of it more as the key that unlocks the door. It's often the very first step towards much bigger, nastier fraud schemes down the line.
Okay, so let's unpack that. What exactly is identity swap fraud? Why should you, our listener in the payment space, be so concerned?
Well, basically, it's when a fraudster gets their hands on a merchant account by using stolen info. They fill out the processing application using details that aren't theirs.
And how do they manage that? Seems there are a couple of main ways.
Yeah, two primary methods. One is using a real business owner's personal identity. Maybe someone trying to dodge sanctions, or they're on a criminal watch list, that kind of thing.
Okay, so bypassing personal red flags.
Right. The other way is using an existing legitimate company's details fraudulently. This helps them sort of slip through the initial checks during underwriting because the company itself looks okay on the surface.
Got it. So once they're in, once that identity swap works, what happens next? You said it leads to worse things.
Absolutely. That's where you see schemes like bust-out fraud emerge. This one takes patience on the fraudster's part.
How so?
They actually operate the business seemingly normally, sometimes for months, maybe even years. They build up a history, gain trust.
This seems legit at first.
Exactly. But then comes the bust-out. They suddenly max out credit lines, process huge volumes of sales they have no intention of fulfilling, and then vanish.
Leaving the acquirer completely exposed to all those chargebacks. Ouch.
A huge financial hit. And it all started with that initial identity swap getting through.
And then there's another complex one mentioned in the NMI piece. Triangulation fraud.
This sounds, well, complicated.
It is. It's quite layered. Get this. The fraudster sets up a fake online shop. Looks real enough. An unsuspecting buyer, let's see you, buys something.
Okay, I place an order.
Right. The fraudster takes your payment. But here's the twist. They don't ship you anything from their non-existent stock. Instead, they take a stolen credit card and use that card to buy the exact same item from a completely legitimate real merchant. And they have that real merchant ship the item directly to you.
I actually get the product I ordered.
You do. Initially, you might not suspect a thing, but the fraudster has pocketed your original payment, the legitimate merchant who shipped the goods in good faith. They eventually get hit with the chargeback when the real owner of the stolen card disputes the charge.
That's sneaky. The fraudster is insulated, the buyer is initially happy, and the legitimate merchant pays the price. Hard to spot early on. Very hard. Which brings us to a really important point. Why do these things succeed so often? Why do fraudsters manage to get that initial foothold with identity swaps?
Seems like it points to issues with how merchants are onboarded.
Exactly. It often exploits the weaknesses in traditional underwriting. The manual processes, they're just slow.
And prone to mistakes, I imagine. Human error.
Definitely. Plus, they create bottlenecks. There's often huge pressure on underwriting teams to approve merchants quickly, get them processing. That pressure can lead to missed red flags, letting fraudsters slip through.
Okay, so the manual way isn't cutting it against these sophisticated attacks.
Yeah.
This is where technology has to step in, right?
Precisely. And this is where underwriting automation becomes so powerful, it's really a game changer.
How so? What does automation do better?
Well, automated systems can run checks consistently, thoroughly on every application. No shortcuts due to time pressure. They can analyze vast amounts of data and flag potential risks incredibly quickly.
We're talking minutes instead of days.
Potentially, yes. It dramatically speeds up the entire approval process, but crucially, without sacrificing accuracy. In fact, it usually increases accuracy.
So faster onboarding and better security. That sounds like the ideal combo.
It really is. And it's not just about blocking fraud, though that's huge. Automation also frees up the human underwriters.
Right, they're not just pushing paper anymore.
Exactly. They can focus their expertise on the genuinely complex cases, the high-risk applications that need a deeper dive, or making those important verification calls where human judgment is still key.
Makes sense. Let the machines handle the volume and the patterns. Let the humans handle the nuance.
Precisely. And you see tools in the market like NMI ScanX for underwriting or
Yeah.
MonitorX for ongoing monitoring that really demonstrate this. They run, dozens, even over 100 checks automatically, and provide continuous monitoring to catch issues before they lead to significant losses.
So wrapping this up for you, our listener, the main thing to grasp is just how sophisticated merchant fraud, starting with identity swaps, can be, but also how powerful automated underwriting is becoming. It's not just about efficiency, it's fundamentally about securing the payments ecosystem.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Think about how adopting automation strategically in a critical area like fraud prevention, how that might set a precedent. It could free up your valuable human talent to focus on innovation, growth, and other areas needing that creative human touch.
That's a great point. It's about smarter resource allocation, ultimately. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into merchant identity fraud. To learn more, read the full article at nmi.com. We'll catch you next time.